Our souls plan our lives based on our wounds for self-improvement opportunities. I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain that went away in the first conversation with Tim. It was my wound screaming at me of how I hated my femininity and hated all the my childhood trauma. And so when of course it took me a while to kind of for it to happen, to self-reflect.
Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Technology Podcast. Today's guest is Kerry, a shaman, a spiritual guide who transforms trauma, suicidal despair, and complex relationships into a path of self-love, feminine wisdom, and radical inner healing. Kerry, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yes, great to have you here. To get us started today, if you could kind of guide me and the audience a little bit on your journey, where you started, what created you, and then what you're doing now to help other human beings.
Yeah, so I had a traumatic childhood. My parents had a traumatic childhood. My mom was engaged 4 times before marrying my dad, and my dad was 4 years younger than her, and they got married in the 60s. My dad's parents got divorced in the 50s and then got remarried when my grandma got pregnant with another man's child, you know? And my grandpa's affluent. He worked very hard and did very well for himself. So I was born into a family where my mom was an alcoholic and my dad was a workaholic. I moved to Southern California when I was 5, and then my parents got divorced when I was 6. So even though I was in a very affluent town, like 15 minutes from the bachelor mansion, I was raised in an apartment. I got a job at 12. I got another job at Hot Dog on a Stick, with the lemonade and the hot dogs and
Yeah.
everything. From when I was 14 till I was 20. And when I graduated high school, I was making double minimum wage, bought my own car, got myself out of the house. Went on to get a degree in Chinese and religious studies from the University of California at Santa Barbara. Met my ex-husband. He's Israeli, met him in Tibet in 93. We had 3 kids, married 10 years. And then because I had never figured out how to be healthy in my feminine lane, like my book is called My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. I was in pain my whole life and didn't know how to get out of it. Like I had no idea what to do. My parents never changed, and I just thought that's the way it is, and this is just the way it is. And so in my 40s, things got really bad. I had like 4 to 7 migraines a week. I was on several medications. And then on my 45th birthday, my mom passed away. And that was really the day where I was called to heal. That was the day my intuition told me to accept my psychic gifts, accept that I have intuition, right? As my intuition's telling me, right? That's how messed up I was. And to heal from my childhood trauma. And that was 10 years ago. That's when everything started. That's where my book starts. But my book quickly goes to about 6.5 years ago when I attempted suicide. And then I get into what happened and what I learned about myself and how I healed.
And that is a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I feel like
Right.
so many people can relate to that because so
Yeah.
many of us go through so much trauma. And then one of the things that really stuck out was you started healing around 45, you said, correct?
Yeah.
And people always say, like, "Well, maybe I'm too late. Maybe I can't do this now." But there's no age limit on that. You just kind of start. And some people find
Well,
that hard.
yeah, I mean, what was hard for me to accept is that my soul planned my life like this. That my soul planned for me to take on what I will call Mount Everest size wounds.
Ooh,
Because if I want Mount Everest size wisdom, I got to take on Mount Everest size wounds and learn. Yeah, it's like if
feel
you want
that.
be wise like the Dalai Lama, you gotta go there. Like, you gotta get into some stuff. You gotta understand some stuff. You gotta live through some stuff? And that's what I figured out. Like, even like Winston Churchill has a quote. He said, "It is said that famous men are often the product of an unhappy childhood." And I was like, okay, well, I've attracted some famous men into my life and they're in my book and they mirrored my wounds back to me. Like, if I'm flirting with a guy at yoga and he's dangling that he has money and all this, but he's not asking me out, then that's a me issue. I got something I got to fix, right? And some of the men in my book are like Justin Waller and his best friend Andrew Tate, and help in seeing myself through them. And then I attracted in 2 fire academy instructors. Like Andrew Tate was warm up for the fire department, who was warm for the FBI. And, that's saying something, right? Like that is saying something. And so, I internalized my trauma. I got a very much like an anxious attachment to self. Like I'm just like constantly, this is, oh, what's going on? They don't like me and I'm the problem. And how can I make them like me? And oh, shoot, that's Carrie. Very is anxious and then sexually repressed from my childhood trauma. So, what kind of men do I attract in with those wounds? Well, the opposite, men who are sexually overexpressed and who have an avoidant attachment to self. Like, they're like, oh no, the heart, whoops, nope, not, nope, one more woman, one more. And I had to work my way out of that. But the process of working my way out of that is how I learned to transform my emotional wounds into personal wisdom and recalibrate. Because everyone, oh, I want to vibrate higher. I want to vibrate higher. Yes, but what does that mean, like physiologically? That means that I recalibrated my nervous system by turning my wounds into wisdom to resonate or be a vibrational match with love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame. And that's a time
Feel
consuming
that.
process. I've been doing this 10 years, right? And when I helped Andrew Tate, that was only like what in 2022, I was 52 years old. So it wasn't like I, knew all my shamanic gifts and I knew how to, it just like came out of me when I started loving myself and accepting myself and believing in myself. Like all this capacity like just came out of me. And that was a shock too, but of course amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I resonated with that so well. And like, just from you saying it took you like 10 years to do that, for me, it's been maybe 3 years. I've been like, not understanding how to give myself grace. Like, come on, this has to be over. Come on, I need more. Right? It's trying to figure out all the things in such a short period of time and not realizing that these things take time to be patient, be graceful. Like that whole mountain of wisdom that I
Yeah.
had you to build. I love how you use that word. To all
Yeah.
the tragedy stuff I went to, that takes time to build into that wisdom. I know in this
Yes.
world right now, we want things so fast right now, but the best things are built in the calm, slow, steady. So you resonate and build to that frequency. I love it.
Yeah, that was I mean, I'm a classic overachiever. Like my dad's, I learned classical Chinese. I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. I've lived in Israel and France. I've been all over the world. I just like go, 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 go. But in like learning how to surrender. And that's the thing is like I had to learn how to rest. So in 2021, so I attempted suicide in 2019 and I had my first, like, conversation with the first I call them my heroes in my book. I'm the heroine, they're the heroes, right? So my first hero, Tim, we started talking on December 30th, 2020, and so all my gifts started coming out in 2021, and it was just like I remember just because I was, like, channeling so much, I was opening my crown chakra, and so I was just channeling, energy, but all of that, like, ran my adrenal system into the ground. It was like I was running from a lion constantly and didn't know it because so much I had to, like, pull so much energy to open up my chakras that were just blocked with emotional pain. And so then in 2021, I mean, like, that summer, we got into a huge fight, and he told me, "I never wanna talk to you again." He called my husband in Israel, like, he's Jewish, speaks Hebrew, knows my ex-husband from Boy Scouts, like, all the drama came up, right? And then he calls, like, "Is she gonna break into my house? Am I worried about her gonna kill my kids?" Like, this whole thing. And my ex-husband's like, "You don't know Carrie, because she's definitely crying in her bed. She is not one who climbs over fences and breaks into homes to kill children."
What has he gone through? Oh my goodness.
That was him. He had a very traumatic childhood, Tim did. He was projecting his wounds from his mom onto me, but he needed that big of a wake-up call to go, "My gosh, Carrie isn't the crazy one." Because how many times do you hear, like, and I attract what we'll call narcissistic men, "She's crazy, she's crazy, she's crazy." Okay, she probably is, but the universe is a mirror showing you yourself. So when these narcissistic men call women crazy, which, I got the Justin Wallers, the Andrew Tates, you know, they be saying that stuff. They are pointing out their own emotional problems and such. And so, yeah, that was a lot for me to accept.
That's a powerful because sometimes, so many times, people don't see that when people do that, how they're reacting, that they're mirroring back themselves and they're actually pointing out their flaws and things that they haven't fully gone through and healed and recovered from. So many people see it as power or as this or that, but not what it truly is.
Yeah, and one part that I forgot to share is that so after that huge argument and he called my ex-husband and stuff, that was when I finally gave myself permission to lay in my bed and just rest. And it took about 2 weeks. And then I finally like rested enough and surrendered enough and opened my heart enough that that fight led me right to a wound. And I had a wound that I feared all men, excuse me. And that was my main driver of my anxiety. So when I went outside the next day to visit my older daughter, who was an adult by then, all my kids are adults now, and she was at a market because she sold jewelry. And she immediately noticed, Mom, you're not anxious. You're not, I wasn't like, I'm like, hey, what's up? Hang out. Like, I was just normal in public. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not I mean, that's how fast it happens, but of course, there was a lot of work and lead up.
Yeah.
So, main lesson here is that our souls plan our lives based on our wounds for self-improvement opportunities. Like I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain that went away in the first conversation with Tim. And it was emotional pain, like it was my wound screaming at me of how I hated my femininity and hated like, all the my childhood trauma. And so when of course I did took me a while to kind of for it to happen, to self-reflect, to come this is the time that it takes. So I'm really like, encourage people and especially women, because women were the emotional center. And so when women don't process their emotions and aren't like have a healthy heart to be the center of a relationship and men are once removed, then men don't stand a chance, right? Like women have really left the center for feminism. Of course, this is all the self reflection I did because I went to college and I had a job and, I can just do everything and learn Chinese and Japanese and have an Israeli
What I
husband who,
can do.
I can just be 10 people, right? Like that's the level of crazy I was operating from. And my parents were encouraging it because they didn't know any different.
But you
And I was a
couldn't but you couldn't just be you.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I always had to work with the kids, but I remember I think it was after I had all 3 kids, 'cause I had them all in 4 years. I remember, like, just acknowledging, I was like, "Gosh, when I don't work, my intuition works, I laugh all the time, and I'm happy." And when I work and I'm in my masculine, my intuition's gone, I'm not laughing, and I'm not happy. But that was the world I was in. But I knew it. I knew it. And my ex-husband always, well, put the kids in daycare and go make more money. I'm like, what? And of course he was wounded. He's Israeli. Like I don't need to explain more. He was wounded. Oh, yeah.
It's a lot right there to unpack, but I really resonate with that, and I see it and feel it not only in myself, but people I meet every day. It seems like that our solution to everything is make money, be far apart from ourselves as possible, remove ourselves completely from ourselves, and then we get more empty that way. And then, like
Yeah.
you're saying earlier, that removing ourselves from ourselves builds up that traumatic pain inside of us. We don't know where that pain's coming from. But our
Yeah.
bodies, our nervous systems remember these things, and it builds up
Yeah.
trauma and it manifests. Hey, my fellow humans, sorry to interrupt your video. But if you're looking for more ways to protect and empower your healthcare practice, we would love to help. At ITCMD, our mission is to simplify IT, boost security, and support your compliance journey with a human touch so you can focus on caring for your patients. Want to see how easy IT and cybersecurity can be? Schedule a free consult or check out our resources at iteecmd.net. Let's build a safer, stronger future together. Okay, bye. That
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that one of the biggest lessons I had to learn that, my soul has a plan for my life is that I am not late. So if my soul is planning everything, I'm like, oh, okay. So there's no regret and no remorse. Not that I don't feel regretful, I don't feel remorse. I can like let go of that needing to be like, so my challenges became lessons and not life sentences
Yeah.
because my lower back pain started when I was 15. It went away when I was 50. And I thought, oh my gosh, is my whole life a valley of darkness? What in the world? Like, what is there like, no, is it happiness? Like, I haven't been on a date in 7 years. Like, didn't go on a date with any of these guys because, it's like not only they weren't asking me out, I was super sus of them. Like, why you got so many women? Why are you so anxious? Like, what's going on here? Like, I was, checking because I was putting out wife energy. I'm looking for a husband, right? So I'm putting out wife energy. I wasn't putting out, I'm going to spread my legs energy. So they're not asking me out. Like, if that were my energy, I'm sure I could have gotten asked out left, right, and center. But my
Right.
energy is wife energy. So then that's a whole other story, and men like that take that in a whole other way. It's like, oh, I got multiple women and you're looking for oh, okay. Like, then that's embarrassing for them. It's now I'm looking. I'm not going, "Oh, yeah, where's the date? Where's the sex?" And I'm done. I'm like, "What you doing over there?" But because I was putting out wife energy, then I, was opening my heart and keeping my legs closed. And so then the "what you doing over there" was helpful for me and helpful for them. Like with Justin, he's 16 years younger than me, I mean, I had no plan in my life to be like DMing a guy 16 years younger than me who has all the women in the world, right? Like, Justin's 6'3", super good looking, super accomplished, but a traumatic childhood just like me. And Andrew Tate, like I wasn't even like I was 52. What do I care about Andrew Tate? You know what I mean? I live in Ventura, California. Like, what do I really care? Right. So in reaching out to him, but I learned so much about myself and I saw so much of myself via those two relationships. And one of the podcasts I was on pointed out something really cool. Is like, there's 6 men in your book and there's 7 chakras, like our crown, our third eye, our throat, I was like, that's amazing because number 3 is Andrew Tate, my throat chakra, right? So it's Tim and Andrew in 2023, soul came through and he said that he's like, "Your voice is louder than mine." I was like, "Oh, I better start talking," because I only started podcast this year, but I was like, again, my soul has a plan for me. My soul has a plan for me to stop resonating with fear, guilt, and shame, and start resonating with love, compassion, and enlightenment, so I can live a more fulfilling, value add life as opposed to fighting through life, which I did most of my life. I was fighting everybody because I was fighting myself.
So much to unpack there, and some of that is just so valuable because the resonation here is like off the charts. Further, I want to start with the soul plants. I've been learning recently that before there's the duality of being a human and then having our spiritual existence. We're
Mm,
spiritual beings having a human experience. And I've been learning
yeah.
that our souls had a plan for us way before we became human. And then a
Yeah.
lot of times being human, we're fighting the soul's plan, but also at the same time, there's systems that are built and there's trauma that builds up that helps fight that and mold us into what things we're not supposed to be. We're not supposed to be doing. But we get all this confused and we don't know what to do or believe and how to act and how to heal that, where to go. It's just so much energy, like you were saying. I went through that
Yeah.
same thing. I'm just like, whoo, it's a lot. And some of us don't. We just keep drinking, keep doing the same things until we die, miserable, depressed. But also at the same time, with this podcast, I'm hoping to help people figure out ways to start that journey, ways to realize and see these things may seem normal to you for a time, but when you start questioning them and asking questions, your normal changes. It has
Yeah.
to change. You have to grow. If you don't, what's the what's
Like,
left?
why in here?
Yeah, why are you here?
Yeah.
It's just so powerful. So man.
We're souls having a human experience and we're here for the growth opportunities. That's why the universe is a mirror showing us ourselves in every moment as a constant feedback loop for self improvement. Now, that's the wisdom. Where's the knowledge? Because if something is true, it's true in multiple places. The knowledge is we attract what we are through, resonance,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm resonating at 400 hertz, then when someone outside of me, around me, is also resonating at 400 hertz, let's call that selfishness. I'm just putting a label on it. When their 400 hertz starts moving, that naturally moves my 400 hertz and pulls my attention that way, right? So if
Ooh,
I that's the thing, like, you and I can see the same movie. What pulls your attention because of the energetic resonance in your soul is different than what pulls my attention. Both are equally valid, right? It's just
yeah.
different lessons because your wounds are different than my wounds. And that's why we're all seeing the same movie, in life. We're just all learning different lessons because based on how our souls vibrate, right? And
Yes.
so, and how it works is, our souls are the 5D. So it happens in the 5D, and then we manifest it in the 3D. Women are the 5D in general, men are the 3D in general. So when women are the center, and then they have a strong connection to source, and that's the emotional intimacy, which is where mental health is created and sustained, then you create healthy humans out of that, and the man provides and protects. And in that situation, the woman's in her right brain most of the time, her forgiveness, her compassion, or nurturing, then that balances her feminine hormones. Then men, leaving the house to provide and protect and coming back, keeps them mostly in their left brain, producing testosterone. So they're balanced in their hormones. And then, the whole family's nervous system is calibrated to love, compassion, and enlightenment because
Yes.
the woman has been given the time and the safe space to do her job. But when we teach women that, oh, yeah, okay, that job, you need to also get a college degree, you need to go have a career, and now make sure your kids are taken care of. It's like that just doesn't work. Like 60% of adults right now do not have a secure attachment to self, meaning that they have an anxious or an avoidant or somewhere in between. They are not mentally healthy, and that's a product of their childhood.
And I love how you put that because that is so powerful. Because is also how people are controlled by that fear inside them, and how society
Yes.
has done this thing because they've seen how they can build a system around this for that fear and trauma inside of people and control that narrative for people and tear like that. They call it the nuclear family, tear it apart and put these different roles on people that are not really does not structuralize for them. I love that.
Right. Like women's nervous systems are far more robust than men's nervous systems. Women's bodies are biologically, like physiologically designed to care for infants. Nursing takes 40 hours a week. Our nervous systems, like they're in our bodies for 9 months and then they come out of our bodies. And like what I was taught when I had my son is, oh, he needs to sleep in the other room and let him cry,
Wow.
like destroy his nervous system. And he has mild autism now. Well, I'm sure and I had tons of cortisol in my system, which is a contributing factor, but why was that taught? That started being taught by men in the late 1800s during the Industrial Revolution to separate mothers and children so they'd have more workers. And then when the kids are 8 or 9, they send them to work.
Then they're mentally
It's
fucked
support.
up. Cool. Makes sense.
Right, like, we kept putting, money and convenience before health and well-being, and so we have a mentally ill society, and here we're at, but I had to explore all of that and, like, live through all of that so that I could do the self-reflection necessary, and I've experienced enlightenment several times in the past year and a half, and my first enlightenment experience addressed the patriarchy exactly. So it lasted 3 days, and even though I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies, I was taught, "Oh, enlightenment is otherworldly." No one taught me enlightenment is an emotion. It's part of our healthy, normal emotional range, and I had to learn that after I experienced it. So what happened was Tuesday afternoon, I sit in my recliner and I start vibrating high. I'm like, "Zzz." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening? Oh my god, oh my gosh." And I could barely sleep, eat, or drink, right? And the next morning, I wake up, or I don't even know if I slept much, and I heard like an alarm in my head, enlightenment, enlightenment, enlightenment. I'm like, okay, I guess I made it. Okay, here I'm at. Oh, okay, right? Well, I asked the universe, like, well, what's the wisdom I need to learn? And at that point, I was talking to the fifth hero. He's a fire captain. And so I was focused on first responders. So first I was shown, okay, here's the first responders. I'm like, well, they're mentally ill. That's not working. Okay. What the family? Oh, everyone's getting a divorce and cheating. Well, that's not working. Well, relationships. I'm like, okay. I'm like, everything's messed up. I'm like, just take me back to the beginning. There was God, and then what happened? It's like point for me to go, okay, everything up to that point is good. So this is where it's like, the beginning. I was like, okay. And I'm an analyst. Like I had a job at Elevance Health at Anthem doing risk and issue analyzing. That's my jam. And so I was like, well, God creates and orchestrates. I'm like, God is he. Like creation is feminine. I'm like, why are we ascribing femininity to a masculine God? Right. And so I was like, "Ooh," I'm like, "So what if we separate out like divine feminine is creation and divine masculine is like execution, meaning planning, and then also killing if it needs to happen, but it has those dual
Isn't
meanings."
that the original? Hold on a minute.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get to that. Right. Yeah, totally, it is. So then I was like, okay, well, if she's equally valuable, then and we put her in the center of the family and the man leaves the family, then maybe women will want to return to the home and it won't be embarrassing to say that you're a stay-at-home mom. Like how many women today would, oh, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, what's up? What you got? I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Hell yeah.
No one says that. Where I mean, that's like own that. Like you got a husband who can provide for you and you can stay home. Like own that. Like that's huge. So in accepting myself, like so that happened, I was able to see like where the problem, it's in our worldview. And so I did, and I am a religious studies scholar, right? So this year I finally spent time on that and I could see that 2,500 years ago, Yahweh is the God in the Bible. He had
Yeah.
a wife, Asherah. Well, 2,500 years ago, she started being repressed, right? And then let's go for Mary Magdalene. And I'll just say it like my soul, this year I had to accept all the signs and synchronicities that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. So this is why I'm kind of connected to all this, right? So I was able to see, oh, well, okay, Jesus was crucified in front of Mary Magdalene when she was pregnant. Oh, that was on Shabbat and they're Jewish. Oh, the Sabbath. That's the surrender time. That's the feminine time. So all these questions started coming up. And I'm like, oh, and I did more research. In the first, second century in Europe is when the imperialism started to rise. So they wanted, structure and control. So they created churches that were all male and repressed the feminine. So this repression of the feminine kept going. And then in the 6th century, the Pope, in a speech in one fell swoop, made Mary Magdalene a prostitute.
Woo!
I wasn't because Jesus was a rabbi. Rabbis had wives and children. So I went in, and all these books were burned in the 4th century during the Council of Nicaea when they decided which gospels would be part of the Bible and which wouldn't for the Roman Church. And so all of this stuff like came out. And so why am I as the same soul as Mary Magdalene coming out now? Like what's special about now? Well, in 2012, the Mayan calendar, remember that? Like all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was the end of a time cycle, not the end of time, end of a time cycle. And the new time cycle that started is the time of self-healing. Okay. So the time of self-healing is like healing, compassion, nurturing, forgiveness. That's femininity. Right. And so it's time for divine feminine. And you can go on my website, Kerry Blaser. I wrote up about all the signs and synchronicities of Mary Magdalene. I also have signs and synchronicities with the Chumash origin story because I live in Chumash country. And what's interesting is that the prophecy for the Chumash, the divine feminine in Chumash is 2021, which is when it happened to me. And then for Mary Magdalene, there's one prophecy. It's also 2021. And that's when my like shamanic gifts came out, my voice came out like in 2021. And I started hearing that I'm on the Jesus Council. And so there's so many signs and synchronicities. I don't have them all on my website, but this is like, I love irreverent humor, and this is why this came through. So a year ago, before I had accepted, I didn't know yet. I was told intuitively that I'm downloading hoe to housewife trauma healing, not knowing that it's going to help me accept that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. Like I didn't know that was coming, but recently I saw through like news shows and stuff that about 10 years ago they found an old text in the fourth century, and it's called the Gospel of Jesus's Wife. So they found textual evidence of it. They found like multiple textual evidence of it, and then of course I had learned that she had been made a prostitute and all these things. I was like, 'cause you always hear, people say, "Oh, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife." I'm like, "Wanna bet? I can." "Oh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me." So, it was, I had to laugh at how my intuition, showed that.
I love thank you so much for sharing that. I love how you shared that too, because I've been on that journey right now, learning all of these things. And I myself started reading the Bible and I saw all this stuff in there too. But then what you
Mm,
said, when it goes back to the burning stuff, I'm also on that journey of realizing a lot of things that were put into the Bible that we've learned or did not actually happen, or over the years have been turned to something different. And it's really
yeah,
hard to know what's true, what's real anymore, especially in this world where they're trying to cover up so many different things and control us by religion, by the nuclear family, just trying to change who we are initially as human beings and who we're supposed to be.
yeah,
I feel that we're always supposed to go on this journey to find ourselves and our purpose and find that spiritual part of us. That's part of our journey. That's what life is meant to be. But
yes,
somewhere along the way, some control came in, systems came in, which started the role of all this trauma and people acting out of who they're supposed to be, creating trauma, etc., going down these lines. And now we have what we have now, where so many people are disconnected from their self, their true gifts inside them, and just
yeah,
understanding their spiritual side of being a human being. We're chasing so many things that we don't need to be chasing. We just need to be and remember who we are. And
yeah,
it's a being that I'm just like, man, I have to say, where did we go wrong? You see so many places we went wrong. But how do we go back to ourselves? How do we get the masses and people to really understand that start this journey, help heal yourself? Because so many people just and they internalize this stuff so much. And everything that you talked about today really touches bases on that. I feel like this podcast is turning into something completely different. At the same time, I've been trying to go in this direction also. There's kind of a synchronicity there too.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing, like, everything that's happened was necessary for us to learn and see ourselves.
Yes.
What happens when we calibrate our system to resonate with fear, guilt, and shame? What happens? What happens when, I'm a female soul and I'm born in a male body? What happens when, because we have a soulmate. Every feminine soul created a masculine soul. We're like, souls are like swans, and we had to figure it out, and that we're
Yeah.
always searching back for that one, and
Twin
so
flame, I call it.
yeah, so, like, twin flame, people call it, and so,
Yeah.
what happens when my masculine, my twin flame is my son? What happens when he's my father? What happens when he's my uncle? We've kind of figured all of that out. We've brought out femininity, we've brought out knowledge, masculinity, and now is a time for balance because, we've had the argument, what is a woman? What is a man? And biology has won. I'm gonna thank God for
It's turning around now, slowly,
it
finally.
totally
I was
is,
like,
and so
I was
this is
scared
one
for a second.
variant.
I was living in fear for a while, just saying.
Well, right, like, I was liberal my whole life, only when I
Yeah.
healed and I got healthy in my femininity, become more conservative, and this is where
Damn.
women don't understand that their power. Our power is in our emotions, with enlightenment being an emotion, like, when I experience enlightenment, and I learned this from Dr. David R. Hawkins' Map of Consciousness, our soul opens up attractor energy cells to influence all of mankind. So I've been home the past year and a half having a plethora of enlightenment experiences, naturally just sharing all of it with all of our souls through a process called morphic resonance. That's what you call it in quantum physics, is that I have wisdom and knowledge, it's just naturally shared with everybody else. If imagine all women had the capacity to be at home, expand their emotional range, help herself and the whole family experience enlightenment, and then share that everybody else how much progress we can make. But what we were taught, feminism. I don't need a man, and sexual promiscuity is good for me.
How's that worked out?
No, 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 no. So, now we have all of the scientific data, which we needed, to show that, women need men need women, and sexual promiscuity hurts both sexes.
I
We
love
know
how
that
you
now.
said that. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that.
And that takes me back to what you said earlier too about the wife energy.
Mhm.
Because I've been on that journey too as the husband energy. Because I
Yeah.
stopped dating, having sex about 2017. Is that? I don't know how many years ago, but it's a long time. I've been on
Yeah.
that journey of realizing and understanding what I need to do in myself to become that person who is worthy of having a wife in my life, who we deserve each other, we can grow together, we can build together. We play the right roles that we need to for that looks good for us.
Yeah.
That may be different for everyone, but what will
Yeah.
work for us?
Yeah.
It's been a
And
long journey.
that's beautiful. Like, I saw someone say that, if a woman can spend 9 months creating a baby, the man needs to spend 9 months before getting her pregnant, making sure that his body is producing the healthiest sperm. Like,
Yes.
Jake Smaller, like, he has 3 families at least.
What? I
No
don't know.
way, but that's the sexual promiscuity. Like, I'm creating an empire, that's the ego. And his friends doing the same thing. And of course, we attract what we are. So he attracted like-minded friends. But then I'm going to ask, okay, so how are those kids going to turn out? And how are those women going to learn how to value themselves when you're not like,
Yeah.
can even spend how are you gonna spend dinner with them? How are you gonna show up for all their games? How you're a traveling around it's like, "Oh, I have
Just
money,
playing the
so it's
seed.
okay." And it was just, it was like they're living Einstein's definition of insanity, and I've told them this, like, if you one man with multiple women is Einstein's definition of insanity. It'll never work in the long run. Now, I understand why we needed it historically, because so many men were killed in wars, and this is what I had to accept. I'm like, okay, when men don't have feminine wisdom around,
They do
they win the
stupid
Darwin
shit.
they got the Darwin Award. Like, my son's an Eagle Scout, and when there would be like a camporee without any women around, that's when the fire gets out of control. That's when men lose fingers. That's when the black powder comes out.
It's so
Little women
true.
out, you know. But when there's women in nature, like on Survivor,
Talent.
they also win the Darwin Award because they're so consumed with everybody's emotions and being fair that no one does any work. Then so then they don't have shelter, they don't have food because, oh my god, well, so and so didn't want to do it and I don't want to make her mad. Oh, so her feelings are more important than having water.
Yeah.
you know but you see what I mean, like, we 100% need each other. We're not here to fight, we're here to complement each other. Men are here to be physiologically stronger, women are here to be emotionally stronger and spiritually stronger. But with the church, like, there's things like the church is the bride of Christ. Why do I, it's like organized religion is institutionalized femininity. Why am I going to Jesus, a man, for forgiveness when that's a right brain feminine activity? Why do I go to confession and seek forgiveness from a male, like, pastor? Or, like, why am I going to all these men in an institution when that's supposed to be the women? Now, I think the men didn't know how to control the women and they thought we're more physically stronger, so we must be in charge, not understanding that the feminine is, in charge of the spiritual awakening. Now, Native Americans know this, like, I love Native American Cherokee culture. I had no idea
Yeah.
how much I resonate with Cherokee culture. And there's a Cherokee proverb that is my dedication in my book. And it says that woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. Women do the inside work, men do the outside work. Women, we got an innie, men got an outie. It's pretty obvious,
Damn.
right? So the church and even like Judaism too, like the temple, it was like only one man could go in there for forgiveness and go through a little like thin veil, like a hymen, and go into the womb once a year. And during their most sacred time in Judaism, which is the time of self-reflection, which is feminine work. But then,
Well, I
one
always
man,
felt religion has really
yeah,
screwed a lot of things up. The
yeah,
example, like, they tell me to fear God when God is love. Why are you
right.
fearing him? I feel like that was something that a system created to help control people not to find self and a lot of other things like you mentioned. I feel that so hard. I feel people don't understand that faith and spirituality has nothing or should have nothing to do with the religion you're practicing. Those bring you further
Yeah.
away from God, further away from you, from oneself. And there's
Yeah.
just, I feel like this is a journey that I'm on to help people understand this more too. I'd love to go over stuff like this, more insights on another podcast. We know we're running out of time today. But this stuff
Yeah.
is like the where I am at right now in my soul journey. I've been
Right.
learning and studying, like you said, to quantum physics and connecting quantum mechanics with all these things to energy and the self together, and how this world, the universe, oneself is connected. And
Yes.
we need to know and learn more of this as a society to understand why we need to get rid of a lot of these systems that we have in place that do not serve human beings. They
Right.
control human beings. They don't serve, and we can serve ourselves, like you're saying, the man and the woman, how that
Yes.
it has been and should be. Whew, so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so amazing having you on here. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
I've got
Thank
like shivers like 3 times because the resonation of it was so powerful.
I love that. And I have a share. So
Yeah,
I
so can I
wrote
reach out
my
for you and everything? Yeah.
yeah, so you can go to my website, kerryblaser.com. My book is My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain, and I'm writing another book to unveil my soul as the same soul as Mary Magdalene. Also, that I'm sharing with Justin here is my free ebook, which summarizes all of my self-reflection techniques. There's 6 divine feminine self-love strategies. So, and there's some videos in there, and I take a very multidisciplinary approach. So I use shamanism, psychology, a lot of Carl Jung. And Andrew Tate is even he's got the quote in there too. And like Dr. Joe Dispenza and stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff in
Thank you so much. I'll put that in the show notes. And all of those are such good names you mentioned. Such
it. Yeah.
profound things that we can learn from so many people. Let me just
Yeah.
take a step back and just learn, listen, understand that thing that I'm learning about calmness and stillness. Helps
Yes.
you be able to connect to all these things in a different way. There's too much noise out here. Way too
Well,
much
everyone's
noise.
yeah. It's all the action and lack of surrender. We need more surrender, less action.
That I was just saying on the podcast recently how people learn stuff but then put it into practice. So I like that now. Now action and surrender. Love that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been a great day. I've learned so much on this podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Justin.
Yeah,
And I'd love to come back anytime. I'm just hanging out at home.
yeah. I love to learn more from you and build my wisdom wall because I feel inside
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be connected with more people like yourselves on this podcast to really drive these points home and also
Mm,
help with my journey as well.
yeah. I love it.
Well, before we go today, I do have one last question for you. And that is, what does it mean to you to be a human being?
Well, I'm gonna change it a little, say I'm a soul having a human experience.
We see that.
Because when I learned how to operate my soul, that my soul is in charge and not my physical body, then that's where everything changed for me. Like my physical body is a reflection of my soul. So if I'm sick or I have cancer or an autoimmune disease, that is showing you that you have emotional wounds in your soul. And so this is where the self-love strategies come in. And I have like the love hierarchy showing you to put self-love first and fill up your own cup of love. And I go into detail about, how to self-reflect and so yeah, and then you can reach out to me if you have any questions on my website or schedule a session. I'm donation only right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know I always say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's so true. I know myself, I used to get caught up too much in the human experience. That I learned
Mhm.
recently that most of us, 99% of us, are living in that human experience. We're so hard, so connected to it, so drawn in, don't realize we need to release that to a higher power, to our soul, and let them take the driver's seat. And doing that, I've realized things got more clear and calm, and you just have this stillness and you can operate differently. You're not stressing out about the next day, the next check, the next fight, whatever it may be. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we are still human. We have our own synchronicity, idiosyncrasies and issues and things. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, we're no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. Our souls aren't every soul has wounds, and there was always another lesson. So I could think, "Oh, haven't I experienced enough enlightenment? I'm 55 years old."
I'm
Nope.
good.
There's more lessons and more lessons and more lessons and more lessons, and okay, this is life, This is
Yeah,
life.
so I
Yeah.
love that. 'Cause people get stuck and they stop, like, "Well, my journey's a destination. I'm good. I'm done." And that's when you start failing. Everything you built starts falling apart. It starts diminishing returns, and you just start losing track of yourself and everything from that. You don't continue that journey. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the ego talking, like, you're good,
Yeah.
you're done. We're perfect
Yeah, yeah.
now." And I see that in a lot of, like, what is it? Like, when I go to festivals and stuff, a lot of people are very spiritual, quote unquote. They're healing, quote unquote, but they're just trying to find a community to belong to, but not actually helping other people. They're just healing
Yeah.
themselves only. And they
Yeah.
understand this is a thing that you have to help people. You have to be of service to other human beings, not just helping you. Help yourself first, but then you have to start giving it back to people.
Yeah. I mean, that's the last stage of a spiritual awakening is it just naturally comes out of you. Like my book just
Yeah.
naturally came out of me and now I'm finally ready to go on podcasts and I took everyone through the second coming through a huge enlightenment experience and sure it helped me, but I knew it was going to help everybody else and I wrote my wisdom of peace plan and yes, it helps me, but it helps everybody else and once you get in that alignment, you just went, oh, everything is helping me and everything is helping everybody else. And that's what we're doing here, helping ourselves and helping everybody else. And that's it. Okay. Okay.
Yes, I love that. It sounds weird sometimes when you say I'm helping myself, but it's kind of like the oxygen mask. You got to put it on first so you can help others. If you didn't go through everything you did, like you talked about, and created that mountain of wisdom that now gives you the capacity to do these things for others, like you said.
Yeah, and share it all. And I'm a matriarch. I've been a maiden, I've been a mother, and now I'm matriarch, and now I'm ready to share all the wisdom on all the experience that I have. At 20 years old, I didn't know much. 55, I know quite a bit more.
What do you mean? I was 20. I thought I knew everything. What are you talking about?
That's
Oh,
the
this is
thing. This is what
over.
we Gary's wrong. But this is what we teach young people. Okay, you're 20 years old and you haven't figured out how to love yourself yet, but go in the streets and yell and scream that you know how to solve the world's problems as if.
And love everyone. And that's love
Right.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway,
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Kerry, for your time today and coming on. I appreciate you and your wisdom. Thank you.
thank you. Have a great day, Justin.
Yep.